Hey everyone, welcome back. We are questioning constructs, and I'm Rebecca.
What's going on, y'all? I'm John.
All right.
Today, I don't know if you can tell, but both of us are both of us are on the struggle bus for real. We're both like feeling. Well, I'll let you speak for yourself. For me, I'm feeling still sick. I've been sick the last couple of days, and I just feel tired right now. I'm pretty beaten up a little bit. We just went through a hurricane out here. it's
By the
it's
way,
been
how are you
good.
guys with that? Are you guys doing okay down there?
Yeah, my power went out a couple of times. But we didn't get hit as hard as some other places in the country did. So, I'm grateful for that. Um, yeah, things worked out for the most part. Really, power just going out a couple of times was the worst of it. Um, which not bad, not the worst. What about you? I don't think you were directly in the path,
Um,
but
no, but I haven't seen the sun in like over a week. We're going on almost 2 weeks at this point. So
yeah,
it's been raining every day. I actually can't remember the last time it's rained. So Sunday was a week, Saturday or Sunday. Let's just say
mm,
Saturday. So I'm going on a week, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're on Wednesday. So
mm.
week and 4 days without seeing the sun. It like peaked out just a smidge when I was down in Virginia. Um, but yeah, no. And it's rained literally every
That's
single day, almost all
that's
day.
so. It's so funny because I'm not. I'm such an introvert that I don't care to see the sun. So for me, that would be a boon. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be excited. Which is kind of like along the lines of my topic. I've got somewhat of it's not a morbid topic, but it can be morbid. I
Okay.
think it's low key morbid, which is why I love it. Um,
Okay.
I have cat, which is a cat. Um, Cat is a kitty cat, and she meow meows, and she meow meow meows. Um, in my search to find good treats for her and train her, I actually found a really really good pet store nearby. It's called Pet Boutique, Top Dogs Pet Boutique. If
Ooh.
you're in Georgia, give them a look up. They're pretty cool. And yeah, I went in just really thinking about like seeing what a pet boutique looks like because I've never actually been in a like uh off-brand pet store. I've been in like Petco's, I've been in PetSmarts, but I've never been in like a like individually owned kind of pet store. It was pretty cool. They've got a pretty huge variety of stuff, and they've got really knowledgeable people. I started a conversation up with one of the tellers there. She was super wonderful, super knowledgeable, and she has cats herself. So I was able to get like a lot of good information out of her. And one of the things she suggested was giving cat like bunny feet. Um, which,
Stop.
if anybody remembers, they have like if you were a '90s kid, you'll identify
Yeah.
with the Lucky Rabbit foot or whatever, right? Like that used to be a
Yeah.
keychain for a lot of '90s kids
And then they started
growing
coming
up.
out with like the colored ones.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
now that I think about it is super freaking weird, and
Yeah.
I would really like to. I should do some research and figure out where that kind of stems from.
You know what
Um,
I think? My running theory. Remember, before the rabbit's foot, it was the dice that
oh
you put in
yeah,
your
the Lucky
car.
Dice.
Yeah, and then they started making like the different colored dice, and I don't know if association. They're like,
Rabbit foot though, like I don't. Why are rabbits' feet lucky?
I don't know. Are we looking it
Yeah,
up
I'm
right
not.
now?
I'm not too sure. They get lucky a lot and quickly, but I don't know about why they're lucky. Anyway, um, this store is, selling a bunch of different rabbit parts. This is for both cats and dogs. So I actually found like rabbit legs, like
What?
full on leg section.
Wait, okay, wait, hold on. We need to pause because I've been in some boutiques, but I have not seen them sell a plethora of like rabbit stuff. Like,
Not
what
just
else were they selling?
rabbits,
Like a
but a
full
bunch of
rabbit?
different animals. Duck.
What?
Um, think of anything cats or dogs can eat raw, as animal parts or what they may hunt for in the
Oh, so this is
wild.
like food, not we're not talking about like the dried like
Yes,
pig's ears and
yes, we
stuff.
are.
So they've dried it?
It's fur and everything.
Wait, what? Oh, that's weird. That's
They've got rabbit
interesting.
heads.
What?
They've got full rabbit heads with the ears. Now, what makes this even worse is that my younger sister has a pet rabbit, so I'm sure she would lose her mind if she ever found out that I decided to buy a couple of rabbit legs and rabbit ears. Now, what's interesting about rabbit ears and rabbit legs is the fur is apparently a natural, like, uh, digestion cleanser for cats.
Whoa.
So it
Really?
gets rid of like worms and parasites and that type of thing when they
That's
digest it.
wild.
So it's actually really, really good for them in terms of like uh, potential value out of it, right? Um, that said, yeah, I've got a couple of rabbit legs, which she really enjoys playing with. Those she can't really eat because they're a little thicker. They're like thicker legs. I should go grab one later on and bring it on for show. And then rabbit ears, which she did end up eating the rabbit ears. So I think she got a kick out of that. And basically, we use them as like playtime type deal. I put it on a string. I give it to her to chase, and I'll like hide it, and she'll bite down on it a little bit and break it off little by little. But part of the reason I decided to even buy it in the first place was because I was like, oh, sick, gross, that's awesome.
Well, because I've heard of pig ears, but I know that pig ears you're technically not supposed to give them, or like a lot of the rawhides, not
Mm,
supposed to give them to dogs because the pieces break off and they're just like too brittle. But I haven't heard about rabbits, so that's so interesting. I also didn't
yeah,
know that about the fur.
duck. So I also tried some part of duck. I don't remember what part of duck it was, but it was like it. I mean, it's all dried and crisp and everything.
Mm-hmm.
She did get a kick out of the duck. That was pretty interesting, watching her like go for that. But yeah, it's rabbit. So I was just curious, if you walked into somebody's house and you saw a bunch of rabbit feet just strewn across the floor with no knowledge of 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 what it's used for or anything like that. Because I have to imagine somebody who walks into my apartment right now and sees two rabbit legs just laying on the floor, right? What does that look like to them? What do you think?
I immediately always go to hunting, but of course that's kind of makes sense for the area that I'm in.
True,
Um,
Maryland, a lot of hunting.
mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, I think the next thought would be just like experiment. So I don't know. I might not be the best person to ask because I don't know if you remember. So I used to briefly, for a moment in time, date somebody who had a snake.
I
Um,
didn't know that.
no. Okay. So yeah, like it was more of like a relationship of convenience. Like I think both of us knew like wasn't going anywhere, but it was just nice to hang out with somebody.
Yeah.
And so this was like I don't know. This was probably my second ever relationship. I was in like middle school
A
still.
lifetime ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, for whatever reason, he decided to get a pet snake, and it was weird because like he was a person like he was real comfortable with it. I like snakes, but a snake in the bed, I don't know. Like he would just let it roam around like the covers and stuff, and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna sit on this snake or I'm gonna move something. The snake's not gonna be happy. It was a boa. And okay, so why this isn't weird to me. He
You gotta
messages
feed.
me one
Oh,
huh?
okay, go ahead. I already kind of like have an idea of where you're going. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So he messages me one day and he goes, do you want to see me feed my snake? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This sounds kind of cool. Sure. So I go over. And apparently, snakes are incredibly picky. So, for example, if you've started a snake off on live bait or, whatever its food source is, it's probably not going to eat dead bait. And like vice versa, which I didn't know. So we're in his basement. He like made a show of it. I think one of his other friends were over there, and there's this giant cardboard box. Okay, like classic, right? Like 90s. Like you want to see something cool? So he had his snake in the box. Mind you, this snake, okay, is probably only like this big. It's like a foot and a half, a tiny little thing. Its head's like this big.
Mm.
And so I'm looking and I'm like, did he already eat it? And he goes, no, he like apparently is picky and doesn't want like the dead mice. I got it. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, can you warm it up? Maybe maybe it'll trick the snake. So he goes, oh yeah. And so he takes he has prongs like this big. He takes it and picks up the mouse and is like running it under hot water. Okay. So he takes this mouse and he goes back to the snake. And the reason why it's not weird, I guess, to see dead animal parts is because of that, right? Like you have to have it for certain animals. But anyways, so this snake, so he's holding it with prongs about this big and he's like trying to dangle it in front of the snake to get the snake to think that it's alive. And so it falls off the prongs and he goes, man, this stupid snake. And he goes to reach in quick as lightning. I've never seen anything so fast.
Struck.
Bam, this snake. And I only saw 2 out of the like 4 bites he got. The snake, bam, 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 bam. And like he like pulled his hand back and he's like, ah. And of course, like the snake's not poisonous, right? But like he had like 4 different
Holes.
sets of puncture wounds. And we're
Yeah.
talking like a split, like my eyes did not even catch all of them.
Yeah.
And he goes, man, that thing's fast. And I was like, what did you think was going to happen? And so
Yeah.
I think what the snake saw was like his warm hand coming down and then bit his hand. Eventually he ate the mouse, but
Yeah.
so
That's wild.
yeah.
Snakes.
And the other reason why I think I'm not the best candidate, or I just go, maybe they have a use for it. So I follow this YouTube channel. It's called Urban Rescue Ranch. And it's this guy who used to work in tech. Younger guy, he's probably like 26. And his channel's all about like he's a wacky little guy, but he makes a lot of like Fortnite and Minecraft references, but he quit tech. He started this in his backyard to open a rehabilitation center for animals. And so all of his like earlier videos, I caught it during COVID, right when he had like just bought a different property. And so he was still doing it out of his backyard and people kept like calling the cops and stuff on him. But of course, like he had his permits and whatnot. And so all of his videos are on like rehabilitation of animals. And then he got this new property and it was all about fixing it up for his animals. And now he runs a full rehabilitation center outside of this
That's pretty
new
cool.
property. It really is. And it's so educational. But the thing I've learned is like you need a lot of, unfortunately, dead animals. So any of the animals that don't make it, get repurposed.
Recycled.
Yeah. And then,
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
yeah. And then he has birds on the property, and a lot of those eggs obviously don't make it. So those get thrown to different animals. And then, he obviously has to help animals learn how to hunt what they would actually hunt in the wild. So That's
Yeah,
where
that's
my
pretty
mind
wild.
goes. So you're doing
Um,
well with two, I
the
guess.
snake thing is pretty cool. But I like when I hear about it. It reminds me of Steven Universe. Are you familiar with that show?
Vaguely, yes.
All right, so Steven Universe, you know how we have a passion for Adventure Time,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's one of our favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
Steven Universe is the show for me. Like I love that show. Like I've got a tattoo on my foot from Steven Universe, which funny enough is the only tattoo that I have. And that'll be a story on the podcast at some point, in the future. But love Steven Universe, and there's a scene. Steven is this like ultra like sensitive, very empathetic kid. And there's this little kid, seems like almost half his age, very young. And his name is Onion, or referred to as Onion, right? Onion is a troublemaker, and he's one of those kids that is he's he's a what Dennis the Menace type character, but he's
Mm.
quiet. He doesn't say anything. He's just a menace. So he goes around doing crazy and weird things. And so one episode takes place where he ends up at Onion's house, and Onion invites him to his room and has him feed a live mouse to a snake. And Steven properly freaks out about it. So that's, as soon as you said snake, that's exactly where my mind went. Um, as far as the ranch goes, that's pretty cool. I think I don't know if you could. What would your project be if you could throw away your entire career, do something entirely different, and like
Hmm.
decide, hey, whatever it is that I put time into, I'm gonna stop doing that and I'm gonna do this instead. What would you be doing?
I think you already know what I'm gonna say,
What?
but save the environment. I just, I don't know. I don't want to say too much on it because it is something I do plan to do, but I would love to buy like land different places and have it utilized in a more sustainable way, but also help communities build something that is sustainable for them as a livelihood where they don't have to rely on other people but yet partner with the land. um I would just go throughout the world and just do that literally everywhere. It's really cool because and I think New Zealand has a lot of this where a lot of the nature is preserved, but then it's utilized for nature or for specific purposes, but then they're giving back at the same time. So, for example, there was a new zip line that I did when I was there, but the guides were all telling us, during the tour of when you zip line at each spot, it was really cool because they taught you about the different wildlife that was there, or like really like the plants and the trees and what's going on with the ecosystem. And then they also were saying, this is the newest zip line in the area, or like in, I guess, on that island. I forget whether we did in the north or the south. I think it was the south. But they were also saying that in order to build the zip line, they worked with the local tribe and then made a deal to plant 200,000 trees across, like, and we got to the spot and they're like, you see this hillside, we're reforesting all of it because apparently like New Zealand used to be, there was even more forest than what's there. So I thought that that was really cool. So they get a zip line, which in most cases is pretty non-intrusive, that they get to utilize forever. And then they're just partnering with the local tribe to help reforest. And they're even talking about how like a lot of the vegetation, the tribe uses as well. So it benefits everybody.
That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
I think uh, so. Like, are you saying that New Zealand would be like your go-to spot, or you would want to do something similar to kind of what you suggested there?
Similar, but all across the world. Just in whatever areas I can see an opportunity. Like, did you know, um, in Africa, in certain parts, I forget which part, they're using an ancient India growing technique where like you basically dig out like a half moon crescent pit, and that's where you plant your seeds. But when it rains, instead of all the water dissipating over like flat ground, it's now like in a puddle, and then that's where the crops grow from.
And it's
So there's
like
all
more
these.
effective than like if you were to dig a hole.
um I mean, I think a hole would still work, but it's just a difference between growing crops like we grow in the US and growing in an arid place.
Mm, okay. So
Whereas
like
like,
it works specifically for that like environment.
yeah,
I have to
yeah.
look into that. That seems pretty
Hmm.
interesting actually.
Hmm.
And
I think
then
the Middle East is doing it too.
okay. All right.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Hmm.
So would you be like the entrepreneur who's like setting up shop going from like place to place, or would you be actively on like given territory at any given time where you are a caretaker of
Hmm.
sorts? Like, because I feel like
Ooh.
this is a pretty large scale idea that
Hmm.
you kind of like have going on here, but it's too much to be like everything at once,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, knowing your tendencies to want to um, be in nature,
Hmm.
but also understanding that you're very entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. I
Hmm.
can't say the word. And you're very you try to be very business minded
Hmm.
about different things. You know, those are two very different paths within this
Yeah.
idea.
Hmm. I would say I can see myself doing both, but I think if money was unlimited, right, I'd obviously have teams of people, kind of like what is it, Habitat for Humanity. You go somewhere, you build the houses, and you go somewhere else. I think I would be there at the I think there's certain places or certain periods on that timeline where I would need to be there, right? Like figuring out where the location is, talking to the communities, understanding like what would work, or like what maybe are like ancient practices that should be still going on, and just for whatever reason over time they're not, or how we can utilize and support everybody. And then I think when the project's first starting, I'd probably be there, but like in terms of staying each place for a very long time, I don't really see myself doing that because I you can't. I guess I could do research to find the next place there, but I feel like my strong suit is developing the plan, figuring out what's going to work, like strategy of it, and then leaving the operations to somebody else. Most of
Yeah,
it,
I
anyways.
think personally that's kind of like if I were heading something like this, that's kind of where I would fall to.
Mhm.
Where I think I would want to spend. I'd probably divide it up into two major parts of my life. To be honest, I would
Mm.
divide it up between like maybe the next 10 years of
Mhm.
being the business minded person, setting it all up,
Mhm.
and then growing a team that I can kind of entrust and hand everything off to, that
Yeah.
like I fully give everything to.
Mhm.
And then the following rest of however long actually on the grounds, I could see myself doing something like that if it was something that I was interested. For
Yeah.
me, I think that if I could drop everything and go just do something, I think right now, I think one of the happiest times in my life was while I was running my own business in California.
Hmm.
Um, uh, um, it was a business that allowed me to go to conventions and sell things at different anime and nerd conventions, comic book conventions, etc., etc. Me being the big nerd that I am, I think if I could just go do anything and drop this life and start a brand new life where I had unlimited resources to do so, I would run an adventure shop.
That's
That's
cool.
that's it. Like I would just it would be an ever-changing shop with like half a mindset of like the adventurer who's finding random goods within the place that's gonna like aid them on their travels. Half the shop would be that, and half of it would be like a magic shop of like um, different types of things that are like quote unquote beyond reality. So I have a bunch of different ideas for like different products that I think would be like amazing, right? Like AR art that like could be really really interesting to play around with, and like in terms of ideas of having posters that you can have something like your glasses these days interact with, where like there's some kind of barcode on it that the person looking at the artwork doesn't notice because it's baked into the artwork, but as soon as like something scans that, the piece of art comes to life.
That's
I
cool.
think that is like really really magical, right? Having something that is still, and you look at it and understand it to be something that doesn't do things, having that come to life in front of your eyes and do things, I think is very magical. um so like things of that nature, right? Where it's like, hey, here's these magical things, but also if you want this 3D printed sword, we got that too. Like come one, come all. We got something sweet for all of you. And it would be ever changing with like each new innovation or like product idea that I could come up with, especially with unlimited funds. Man, like if I had
Yeah.
unlimited funds and I could just hire people to work out some of these ideas that I have in my head. Like I was in the car earlier today, and this is a dumb idea, but I think it would be awesome. Um there was I had this idea way back when, a couple of years ago, where I say I had this idea, I stole this idea, and wanted to kind of make adjustments and make it my own. There are these things that you can buy, air fresheners for your car, where you stick it in and it's a little record player. The air blows and the record spins. And it's a very
Oh,
cool piece of artwork in your car, right? And you can put your favorite records on. And I was like, dang, that's a really great idea. What if we expanded that to do a bunch of other things, like for all of my weebs out there, um, Naruto's Rasengan, or a basketball, or a bowling ball, or an eye, Kakashi's Sharingan, like any of these things that have a natural spin to them that we associate with spinning, right, works for this the same way a record does. So I was like, man, you could even do like different sports teams, and this is an idea that can be scaled up really, really easily and quickly, and it's cost effective. Well, today I was in the car and I have these air fresheners hanging off of the mirror, and I had my AC on full blast, and it was blowing the air fresheners out, right? And
hmm,
so they were kind of like bobbing against the air. And I was like, dang, what if I made some kind of air freshener where basically there was almost like a fishing line, right? And
hmm.
a miniaturized airplane, like
Oh, that's
classic
cool.
airplane. so that whenever you have the AC on, the wind from the AC carries the airplane, so it always looks like it's at full speed going at you, um, even when you're like still. And then as you're driving and you're turning, the airplane turns with like the motion of the car,
That's
right? But
cool.
still stays pointing forward, right? And I was like, dang, that's something that hasn't been done before. And man, would it be cool to have like a fan up where like you have all these different airplanes flying forward, right? And they're like little air fresheners, right?
Uh-huh.
Something that's both like eye catching and useful, right? And I'm like, man, I would just love if I could have a team of people to work out these
Yeah.
ideas and like try to make them happen. And then travel around the world, going from convention to convention, selling these wares and just being a part of setting up video game competitions in the magic shop itself, so that like passerbys who may not necessarily find interest in the wares may find interest in competition. Like, oh man, I would love to do that again.
So
That is,
really, what you're saying is you want to be a wizard. You're the modern day wizard bringing magic to all the lands. You're the Weasley brothers with all of the inventions that are
oh
bringing them to
wow,
the
the Weasley
masses.
brothers. Yeah, that's actually a really solid comparison. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know what? Funny enough, well, not funny enough, it was intentional, right? But that's what our mascot was when I was working on that business. Our mascot was a red panda that was dimension hopping and stealing things from all different dimensions and bringing them back into the shop. But the shop, not even a shop, just bringing them back to her house. Just things that are shiny that catches her eye, right? But the trick of it is that she's a hoarder. So it just gets hoarded like she's this dragon over random things from different universes, which kind of gave us the excuse to dip into certain IPs and make something that were reflective of them. And then basically the shop, like the house just got too full. She couldn't sleep anywhere. So she hired these people to like make some money off of this and clean up her space. And so our booth at conventions, the idea behind it was supposed to be her wares that she snatched from different dimensions that we were hired on as attendants to sell. And so there was kind of like a storyline there, which I think I'm still in love with the concept, and I would love to re like if ever I had unlimited funds, I would do it again.
You just did it now, just on a larger scale. You know what it makes me think of this movie does not get enough credit, but Treasure Planet.
I love Treasure Planet. I think Treasure Planet
Yeah.
is amazing. Yeah,
That in Atlantis.
yeah, both amazing, amazing movies that like I think really capture like this magic and this like severely different place that it's just really fun to interact with.
Mhm.
Um,
Just the creativity, and the thing is like every single character was so different. Now with movies, it's almost like the characters, even though they have different personalities, fit together so well. But back in the day, there were like each character really just felt like it had its own movie within the movie.
yeah, yeah. I think it's funny. I think that's a pretty. I think it's an interesting concept because I think some of my favorite movies do a really good job of not just movies but shows do a good job of like making sure people within the universes feel like actual people with their own lives, with
Mm-hmm.
their own stories. I think that's super solid in terms of storytelling. But it also like adds to this magic because like I don't know, we get so caught up in the day to day that we don't always recognize other people as being fully human individuals that
Yeah.
like have to like today I had to come home from work during lunch, so I could get my the property management company. I had to go to them so they could readjust my rent this month because they overcharged me for
Mm,
rent. And so I'm sitting there. I've been calling for the last 2 days. I've sent multiple emails. I'm really trying to get this done because I don't want to be late on rent. And finally, it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait and risk being late any longer. I'm going to the office over lunch. And I went, and like in my head, I had these like ideas of what I'm going to say and like how I was going to voice my frustrations because there have been multiple frustrations with the property. And I get in and I see, the people like within the office working, and they're talking with somebody's rushing in between offices. They say, hey, they're like, hey, we know something's going on with the rent and everything is happening. It's been a cluster
mm-hmm.
over here. And
Mm-hmm.
like immediately, like I cooled off and I was like, oh wait, these are people. Like they're not just concepts to be angry at. They're working people who are struggling with the same problems that I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
So just because I didn't get the response in what I deemed a timely manner at the time didn't mean like there weren't humans out there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that these people weren't some conglomerate, right? They were just
Yeah.
people, you know.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
too, like what I found true in most situations, and I tell my team this a lot, is make sure you communicate. Like a lot of times, I think just the act of like someone saying where something is in the process, or just like the acknowledgement, even if it's like, "Hey, I can't get to you right now." It's almost like like some sort of weight gets pulled off because it's like you've checked off your box. And now it's like, okay, cool. So, I know this person has recognized that like I'm here. Again, going back to what you're saying about like being human, like, hey, acknowledged. And then I have found that most people are pretty receptive to that and are willing to, be accommodating for the situation, whatever the situation might be, where you can't do exactly what they need or desire right in that
Shoot,
moment.
I would have been a lot calmer walking in had I gotten any of that instead of the 12 times I called and, you
Yeah.
know, again, multiple emails and yeah. But regardless, like
Yeah.
it was still one of those moments where, even if you are working at your utmost to do something, it doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that everybody else is capable of doing so. And
Correct. Yeah.
so, recognizing or like meeting people, I think not meeting people, but well, sometimes meeting people where they're at. I think it is it's tough because we all want our things, but it's sometimes like one of those what do you call it, like bitter, not bittersweet, it's one of those I get
Double-edged.
yeah, double-edged thing where
Mhm.
like it's something that can be taken advantage of,
Mhm.
but also can be like useful for you, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those moments for me today where I was like, all right, you know what,
Mhm.
fair, I'm gonna let it go, even though like technically speaking it wasn't fair, but
Right. Right.
fair, I'm gonna let it go.
I found something that's helpful for me, um, because, I had a similar situation with a different place that I lived at where I don't exactly remember what we needed, but we needed information and like we were not I think it was like a lease renewal or something. And it was
I
getting
feel
like
like I remember this. I feel like I
yeah,
remember us talking during
yeah,
this.
and it was
Yeah.
like getting closer and closer and closer and closer to
You had
um
roommates at this time, right? Like four roommates?
and like we all
Yeah, yeah.
called, emailed, and then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
eventually just went down to the office and I was like, "Are we allowed to renew? Like we have a month left."
Yeah.
And in the state that I'm living in, what I have found to be true is like most people want to know like 3+ months in advance. So like they'll start messaging you like month 4 and be like, friendly reminder. And by month 3, they're like, all right, go time. Like, are you guys living there? So they had done all that and we had responded and like never heard back. And so I same thing, went to the office and the lady's like, I know, we're gonna get to you. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, do we still have a place to live though? That's all I need to know. And she goes, yes, we'll send out the lease, whenever, like this week. But um something that I've found really helpful, to your point of it being fair, or um no, recognizing your own boundaries, right? So like if I play this scenario out and I never get a response, when am
When it's
I
too
stopping?
much.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when am I stopping for myself, or when do I have to do something different? Or let's just say you'd been trying to reach them for like a couple of months and it wasn't something that like you were just needing their confirmation on. For example, like if oh, this is a really good one. Um my brother was living somewhere where his wife was calling in about a gas leak, about how there's always the smell of gas in the house, and like she was pregnant at the time. And turns out there was actually a little gas leak and they didn't want to change the stove, and it took my brother coming home and being like, no, you are going to fix this
Isn't that a
stove.
lawsuit?
This Right.
Like,
So, but recognizing when it's like, no, this is actually important,
yeah,
and like I'm not waiting anymore because of like whatever your reasons are,
yeah,
versus okay, cool, like I know this is going to get done and like my anxiety is decreased because you've acknowledged that like it's going to get done.
yeah, yeah. That said, I think yeah, I think kind of going back a little bit, um I don't know. I feel like something that's interesting, that's relatable between both of our ideas, is that we both want to be able to move around, which I found
Mm,
interesting in like
mhm,
thinking about what we each said, in the sense of like I want to be able to go from convention to convention, and
mhm,
conventions happen all over the world, like
mhm.
across the world they happen, and I would love to be that shop that just pops up in a random place in the world, like,
Like a bazaar? Like
here
one of
my yeah, well, that's actually a really great comparison point, like a bazaar, for some people, there I feel like in like fiction, bazaars oftentimes have some kind of like um connotation
magical.
to them that
Yeah.
can be magical,
Yeah.
um
Or like the
magical,
peddler with
but
the cart of some sort that like he's there
yeah,
and then he like disappears and he sold
yeah,
you the magical cloak.
I think it would be cool. I think, something like the I can't remember if this is true or not. The peddler in Aladdin. Um, I don't think it was Genie. Might have been Genie. But
I vaguely. Okay.
the peddler telling the story in Aladdin, where
Uh-huh.
he's the one who has the lamp and is like
Uh-huh.
shining it as he tells the story. Yeah, like I think that would be like just that kind of thing where like even like in that sense, I'd love to like negotiate over people who are willing to do so. Like I'd be willing to, especially if I had unlimited funds. I'm not saying I'm giving everything away for free, because nah, I'm making my money. But um I would definitely encourage bartering, and conventions happen to be really great for trading between like other stores and stalls. Some of my favorite things that I currently have, surviving even my trip from California to Georgia, come through trades. But neither here nor there. It's just really interesting that we both kind of like want to travel, because I
Mhm.
imagine when you say like set up these zones, we're talking about different zones in like entirely different like parts of
Yeah.
the world, and
Yeah.
potentially like we're we're talking about like different continents and different.
Mhm.
I don't know. Would
Mhm.
you do different uh,
Biomes.
yes, biomes. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. I would. I do think. Well, I think that I would really rely on what native populations are there. Like, I'm not trying to really reinvent the wheel, but I'm trying to merge like business and livelihood, or a sustainable livelihood, by preserving nature and helping populations that probably already have ideas to integrate them, or taking ideas from other places, like for example the growing crops um, that would work, integrating them. But I think I would struggle with very cold climates. When I think like I think I could think of things for like arid places, but when it comes to like tundra or places where they're just buried in snow, or I would really, I'd really have to do talk to more people and do more research, because I don't really have as like really a ton of exposure with those places. Um I also, and something I, tell me if this rings true for you, but the older I've gotten, now starting a family is like important to me. And I've been thinking more about like, okay, well, if I start something, like what does that look like in the context of family? And because I know, um, me personally, I've never been a person that's always been like, I want to be a stay at home mom. I've always wanted something for myself and to continue, like, personal growth is very important to me. But now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, you know what? Like, I can be entrepreneurial and start things from home and go travel with my kid. But whatever I do start, I'm like so less inclined to do anything that would actually take me away from my family. And I think it's interesting because when I think about going to these different places, like, me, I travel a lot. It would just be my vacation, and I would take my family. And if I was the person who was able to provide for my family, or if it was some sort of mixed income household that allowed all of us to travel together, like, that's really my ultimate desire. But I would not do this, or I wouldn't do it as much if it took me away from my family and they couldn't be with me, or if I didn't get to show my kid all the cool things of the world. So I'm curious for you, when you're thinking about this, if this is, if you had it now and you were setting it up and you met a significant other, or if you want kids, like, do you ever think about it in the context of that? If so,
Um, I
why or why
th-
not?
I think funny enough, at some point in our lives, we kind of switched positions
Mm,
in regards to like the idea of family,
yeah.
because it used to be that you were like, it was something that you wanted, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like it wasn't a major priority, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, and for me, having a family always was a major priority until like maybe the last 5 years of my life. And so I am on the opposite end. I do right now. I can safely say that um, I think there's a lot of I don't know. It's a complicated issue for me. Part of me, yes, wants a family, but like if at this point in my life, I think this is the doomer in me, I guess, talking. If I don't get it, I'm okay. Like I've kind of made my peace with the concept of having my own family. I think my current family right now is enough to show me why family is rough, and I'm not in a position where I'd want to bring anybody else into it. So I think it would take a really special set of circumstances. Now, that being said, the right person, the right income, the right place and time makes all the difference in the world, right? Um, but in this imaginary hypothetical where I am a shop owner and I do have unlimited resources, yeah, I absolutely would love to like have like a couple of kids that are also helping me, in the shop, with ideally a wife. Yeah. I think that would be
Ideally a
fantastic.
wife.
Well,
Sorry, just
yeah.
the way you said that.
Well, so here's the thing. Because I can almost divorce having a wife from having kids. Like, if
Mm,
I got to a certain age and I had, unlimited money, and,
mm-hmm.
maybe I would find it, pertinent to adopt, right? In which
Yeah.
case, I don't really need a partner,
Right.
even though it would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not like I'm not. Um, Listen, if Android wives happen in the future, sign me up. I'm happy with that. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I am, which is funny. I wonder if I'm like becoming
Are you Benjamin
what's
Button?
I don't know about that. I don't know anything about Benjamin Button. Doesn't he get younger?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I just don't know. I think family would be cool, not a necessity. I think that type of lifestyle would be really awesome to introduce to another generation of people. I think it would be really cool and amazing to like show somebody a different way to live in the world than even what they may have, which is why adoption like rings really true for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that somebody was living a lifestyle that it is probably tough for them. They probably had some kind of hardships. Not that I'm like some kind of savior or anything like that, but like taking them out of that situation and giving them something entirely different, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of giving them some kind of foundation that would be relatively unattainable.
Yeah.
Um, there's something pretty cool about that, I guess.
I can definitely empathize and understand where you're coming from because I've had the same thought for myself. If I am at a certain age, haven't, you know, found the person, I'd be really open to adopting because I feel like I don't know, like what was weird is I feel like for the first time I was even like, oh, surrogacy or just getting or doing like IVF or something. I was like, you know what? Actually, nothing's off the table for me at this point in time. Like, if I really felt like going through with it and having my own kid and, wasn't with somebody or adoption, because I've always, even when I was a lot younger, I wanted to adopt, not necessarily. I wasn't as a fan of having my own, but now I want my own. So I don't know. But I get it though. I just, that was a path where I was like, you know what? I accept that as my path
Yeah,
if
it definitely
I
for
don't
for
find
me
anybody.
again, not until like pretty recently in my life, I'll say, like it's just I think the last couple of years have kind of like opened my eyes to the treacheries of the idea, in a sense, and it's not something I'd want to do unless like the situation allowed for it, which again in this hypothetical it does, but this is like a one in a million.
Mhm.
Actually, it's not one in a million, and I need to not say that. It's very attainable. It just takes some time and dedication, and it's like the startup fund is pretty massive, but like the problem is that my ideas are expensive in nature. So it's fun to like think about like having a team that basically I can give the core concept to and have them build out. But I think the tenacity to get there is really really important, and I'm not sure that I'm at a place in life where I'm exhibiting that necessary quality
Mhm.
to push myself to that next level yet. Not to say that I won't, or not to say that it's not in my future. I can see where I'm at right now, and like in life right now, i'm pretty I'm trying to be pretty calm and trying
Mhm.
to like function within my society, instead of trying to break society.
Mm.
I think at some point in the future, I'll get back to a place where I'm a little more interested in breaking it.
Mhm.
In which case, you'll probably see like a really, really strong drive to like invent and create and
Mhm.
bring like these ideas to life. But you know, I think there's some time between now and then for sure. For now, I'm just gonna dream up ideas and try to keep a running log in my head of things that sound pretty cool. I don't know. That airplane thing sounds pretty dope, to be honest. Like you could do different styles of airplane. You could have like one of those rotary airplanes so that you got the spinning effect of like
Mhm.
the record player
Mhm.
while having it fly. Oh man, that would be super cool. And it
The
just takes
thing
like
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
It just takes like aluminum, right? Super light metal.
Mhm.
It takes some uh, what's the paper called? Like not silk paper, like
It's
fly
the
paper.
origami paper.
Even lighter than that. There's an even thinner
Rice
paper
paper?
than that. Rice paper, like some type of rice paper, and then a mechanism to keep it to basically guide air in a certain direction to push and create the momentum forward. Um, and I think again, like that's super. That's a cool idea. I may build that one just for me. I did the Rasengan and the basketball and the bowling. I did a bowling ball, a baseball, a basketball, a soccer ball, and a pool ball. I did all of those, and those were super cool. Um, so I think making this like airplane would be interesting.
Yeah, I the first thing that I thought of was your paper lantern that you guys made. And so
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, that'd be interesting if you had a paper airplane and then it just like those like wooden reeds that like soak up the oils and then diffuse it into the air, like same
yeah.
concept but with the paper."
Oh, that is really that's actually a very clever idea,
Mhm.
or something that kind of like assimilates the look of bamboo, but might be like cork or something like
Yeah.
that, so it
Yeah.
like soaks in.
Yeah.
Um, and actually even like talking about this, that gives me another idea which I think would be cool, doing like a paper lantern that just
Mhm.
hangs off of
Mhm.
the mirror,
Mhm.
and having a diffuser in that.
Mhm.
That would be pretty cool, especially
Mhm.
if you can make it so that like if there was any rocking or motion detection, it lights up. That would
You
be
can even
cool at
have one on a
night.
stick, so anytime it moves,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
you're an actual lantern
yeah.
swaying. Well, there's
I
so much you
think
could do with that.
Yeah, I think there's some cool ideas there for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we have made it. I know you and
Yep.
I are like are feeling it. I can
Yeah.
tell I'm feeling it because I'm sweating, and like I'm
I know it
dude.
looks like I'm sweating. I'm not. It's just I don't know why the last two times this late has been so intense. I even turned it down. Actually, like today I have a little bit of highlighter on, so that's why. But last time, no idea. But
Yeah, my throat is scratchy. I'm really feeling it. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go take a really hot shower and
I thought you were about to go like
yeah,
that.
just sign off
Weird.
like that.
Yeah.
um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm gonna go take a really hot shower and try to get some early sleep for tomorrow, the next day.
yeah, I hear ya.
But yeah, for
Thanks for
any of
hanging in with us. Oh wait, questions. So my question for people is, what would you do if you had unlimited funds? What would your career of choice be? And it has like you have to do something like a career, but it can be unconventional. So what would you do? What's your question?
my question is gonna be a little more self-serving. I want you, beautiful, brilliant, wonderful, thoughtful, clever people to submit your dream idea and product, and then I want you to not be mad or try to come after me when I take it and make some small changes and make it my own product that I get rich off of. Um, I will be doing that. So please, I would love it if you guys could submit your own ideas of wonderful products or ideas you'd love to see come to reality in your life. And hey, who knows? Maybe if it's realistic in nature and achievable, um, you'll see it come true under some brand name created by I.
Unbelievable.
Hey,
Actually, it's believable,
listen,
but
listen. I think I do best when I'm adding on to ideas. I think that's where I excel, not
Mm,
necessarily, you know. I think I should go to school for engineering at some point in my life so that like
mm,
I do feel a little more comfortable creating bases of things, because it's not as though like I don't have like concepts that are like core that I can create. But I just think that I can be really creative when I see something. It like sparks so many other ideas. So give me those ideas so I can spark some more, make it real, and then make money. Uh, Love you all. And
mhm.
just remember, keep diving headfirst, face
Face
down.
down. Love you
All
guys. Hope you guys are
right.
feeling good. Bye.
Bye.